from one web designer to another web designer, like what is kind of your wheelhouse? What do you like to do, and how do you approach web design? Just generally, like how do you think about it? Because we're talking about teams, right? Ooh, this is a good segue.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about teams, and I think in a previous conversation, you said something about a website being a team, like one of the team members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly what we think about it. We think about your website being an employee of your company.
Yeah, that's a good
That's
little.
the way we think about it.
Okay, so let's talk about is that what you lead with? That's your kind of.
We ask a lot of questions because we're more consultants than salespeople. Like we really are not sales humans. If you can't sit down and like allow us to ask you questions and get feedback from you, then you're not going to get the thing that you want.
Right. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable From the Trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are joined by Monica Pitts. Welcome to the show, Monica.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So Monica she's got an agency. You got an agency, right?
Well, sometimes I call it an agency, but I don't want people to confuse us with people who do all kinds of things and aren't good at any of them. So I usually say that we are a web design company because that's what we do the most of is web design.
That's good. You don't want to be too broad. We talked a little bit about that in one of our previous chats, our intro chat. You have a partner?
Yes.
You just do your own thing?
So 100 years ago, no, actually, in 2005, I left my agency job and I started my own web design company with a fellow coworker over there. She was the sales, I was the builder and designer, and then about a year into it, she got surprise pregnant and she was like, I don't think this is a very good plan for me to be growing a business at this moment. And I said, okay. And so I bought her out and then I was sole owner for the next 6 years. And then I, for 6 years, merged with my family's internet service provider. And then at the end of that, I decided that was not a good idea either. And then I had to be brave enough to go back into business on my own with all of my employees and get ready to rock and roll. And it has been an incredible journey. And I'm definitely stronger for both of those partnerships dissolving. So
okay, so
it's good stuff.
That is good stuff. So we know what you do. So the first time we have somebody on a podcast, what I like to do is everybody likes to learn about your story, your journey, your origin story, how you got started, and how it kind of led up to you starting your own business, why you did that, what influenced you to do that. Was it a bad job? Was it somebody that inspired you should do this? Those type of things. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you to kind of, you can tell the long story, the short story, whatever you feel like. But I'm going to hand it to you and go for it.
So I graduated in 2003 with a degree in agriculture.
Agriculture?
From the University of Missouri-Columbia. Yeah. And I had taken 2 graphic design classes in high school because my mom was insistent that I would be good at it. And then when I was in college, I took 2 journalism classes, and one of them included web design. But through these experiences and in all my class projects and everything, I was always doing some type of marketing, and writing intensive work. And so I kept it all in a portfolio. So then when I went to go interview for jobs out of college, I brought this portfolio with me, and potential employers were like, oh, so you can make websites. Why don't you come build a website for us? And so I would go in as an intern and I would build a website, or a temp employee basically. And then after college, I went and I worked, like I said, for my family's. Well, this is actually before I remerged with them. I worked actually for my family's internet service provider. I was a IT technician who also happened to network in the community and build websites.
Wow.
So it would be like, is it plugged in? Reboot your machine like so many times.
So your family owns an ISP, internet service provider?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
and it was much bigger then than it is now. Now where my brother manages it, and he's more of a reseller, like tech guy who can, go in and network everything and put it all together and make it work for you.
Wow.
But yeah, at that point in time, it was dial-up, and then we were moving into DSL. So yes,
Interesting.
how fun, right?
Yeah, that kind of your
but what I
foundation
loved-
of tech is already kind of bubbling to the surface here. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, great. And I am not the person who likes to deal with the internet at our house now either. So it's okay though. Anyway, I digress. So after that, I went and worked for an agency, and it just kind of felt not right there because I just always want to make sure that we're doing things the right way. And so I can just, I remember being in that agency, walking up the steps every day and thinking, why am I even here? Because I would my boss would be like, hey, we need to just put this thing together like this. And I was like, if you do it like that, then it's going to cap out here and you're not going to be able to do this, this, and this with it. And he's like, it doesn't matter. It just needs to get done fast. Just do it. And I'm like, all right, but just know that you're going to blow your client up in the future. And so then, lo and behold, it would be a few weeks later and the client would be like, now I want this, this, and that. And I'd be like, I got to start over
Right.
again because this doesn't support that, and that was just so disheartening to me. And all my networks from the ISP days of networking and being in the community were coming back, and they're like, hey, I want you to build this website for me. And I'm like, you don't want to work with these people. And then I'm like, wait a second, I am these people. I need to leave. Like,
You could be these people.
So I left, and I actually had been, I'm going to call this guy a headhunter, but not really. So he owned a real estate company in town. And he would call me every 2 months. And because my husband was a mortgage broker and he worked with them really closely. And he would be like, Monica, this web developer is holding me hostage. I can't get out from underneath him. You have to come take care of our stuff. And I was like, that sounds terrible. I don't really want to do it. And then eventually when I was like, I can't do any more for this company, I called up my real estate guy and I said, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to be an independent contractor. I'm renting an office from you. I will draw up a contract that says exactly what I will and won't do for you. And I get to have employees of my own, and I can take on any other projects that I want as long as I fulfill these requirements to you. And he was like, girlfriend, you got yourself a gig. And
Nice.
so I went in there, and that was the beginning of my company. And
Wow.
now I know a lot more about houses than I probably ever thought I would.
So you did, because you were working. Yeah, I suppose you would. Yeah, you kind of learn about the business that you're helping, even though you're doing web design development. You're like, you learn a lot about that business, which
and about managing clients too, because realtors are an interesting breed of humans. And when you're managing 40 of them every day, it's like you learn fast how to make processes that aren't going to explode you.
Right. So that aren't going to explode you. So you mentioned employees a few times. Did you always think you would build a team, or because some people will go the route of I just want to be a freelancer or whatever, just solo and or they may outsource a little bit, but did you get actually employees right off the bat?
I did. I had employees right off the bat. I understand what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And so two things I'm not really good at is, one is seeing things on a timeline and remembering everything when it's supposed to happen and keeping everybody straight on what they're supposed to do. That is called project management. I am not so good at that. I'm good at managing human expectations and human relationships, but that is adult babysitting, and I am very dismal at best. Like, I am so fortunate to have my oldest child who almost always knows where my keys are, where my phone is. And from age 2, she was like herding me out of the house to go to daycare with like a list of, Mommy, did you get your lunch? Do you have your glasses? Like, is the door locked? Do you have your car keys? And I'm like, oh man, thank you. Thank you, universe, for gifting me with this child.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I'm not very good at is like repetitive tasks. I tend to second guess myself, drop details, and then it takes me a really long time to do them, and I don't find any joy in them. So you could about imagine, having a bunch of real estate work at the very beginning, which was a lot of details. And then, so I had a person come in that would do things like make the open house flyers, and I'd set up all the systems, but she would take care of it, and then I would look over her work and make sure it was right. And then the same thing with the websites and like the project management on it. My business partner at the time was also a project manager, and so she would manage those people and their timelines and everything, and I was just responsible to get her all the deliverables and then sit through the meetings. And so I've always had those people in my business to support me.
Do you think
and my clients.
do you think that kind of stems from like your family business and stuff like that, just knowing that they always had employees and they kind of probably structured things the same way? Like they have their wheelhouse?
That's a great question. I mean, my dad, yes, always had to have employees because he is a professor. He is his head of a department at the university. So he's not actually, this is just fun. He actually came to me when I was 16 and, remember, degree in agriculture. My dad's actually head of ag systems management for North Dakota State University now. And he was like, so I showed cattle. I was a farm hand. This is what I did. This is my job, other than waiting tables in high school. And he was like, okay, so you're 16 now, you can drive. I think we should have a family business. Should I start an internet service provider or should I invest in cattle? And I looked at him and I said, Dad, I am only going to be here for 2 more years. I do not think that you should invest in cattle. And he was like, oh, fine. Internet service provider it is.
Wow.
And so then my brother and I did end up working for him through like college and doing tech support and stuff for him, like as it was Travis's, like one of his major sources of income. But for me, it was just like a really part-time gig. Anyway, so yeah. So Dad's always had employees because you got to be there to answer the phone when somebody's stuff doesn't work. And he was teaching and researching.
I just find it interesting. I think, a lot of what we end up doing is patterned off of what we've kind of grown up around or that's somebody that's influenced you and thinking. I mean, you think of like, a lot of businesses, you got to have employees. There's certain scenarios where you have to have them. But I love the other thing to kind of pivot back to some of the things you said here. Like, first of all, I think it's really important that you've identified kind of what you like to do, what you should be doing, what you should not be doing based on your makeup. And I think we're all that way. And I think that's where you kind of start when you're hiring employees and building a team is, who can complement me and who can do the things I don't want to do. And you go further that way because you shouldn't be doing the things you should have. I think you use joy. You should have joy in what you do. Yeah. And that brings joy because I have, employees that do things like the repetitive stuff or like dealing with data and moving, copying things and just repetitive tasks and
QuickBooks,
whatever. It's like
QuickBooks is bleh.
But she is like, she loves it. She loves, like, I can tell. Like, she just, anytime I give her something, she's like joyful. I'm like, that is perfect. Because that's her joy. That's not my joy. But if you bring somebody on the team that has, that's what you want to do. You surround yourself with people that Everyone's unique, and there's somebody that's going to love doing that thing. So,
Yeah, we have a person on our team that we call the office momager. Her name is Kara, because Stacy, who's my CFO, and like we run the company together from the top, right? And so we always have these ideas. We're like, oh, we should do employee appreciation, blah, blah, blah. Oh, we should give our clients this gift. Oh, no, someone's cat died. We need to give them like this, whatever. But we seldom have the time to follow it through. And so Kara, our office momager, she takes care of all of that, even down to like groceries for the office and like toilet paper. And it's incredible. And then we have people thanking us for like things that she's like, we didn't even know were happening, like, because she just has taken it over. And it's so great to have that spirit of love and, giftitude. I don't know what you want to call it, but just showing people that you appreciate them and doing those little things, but having somebody who actually does it, because I love that we do it. It's just, I forget.
It's not your thing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that can carry over. You think about, like, I have multiple examples. I have somebody like that who, this past year I finally said, I want to celebrate people's birthdays, even in Slack, just like on a team. I said, can you be in charge of that? And she is. She's doing amazing until it was her birthday. And then my project manager was like, they're friends. She's like, it's her birthday today. Like, who's doing that? who's? She's like, I'll take care of it. She went and wished her happy birthday. But it's the same way in life, right? Like cards, like sending out holiday cards and stuff. That's not my thing. Mm-hmm. People will never get a card if it was up to me. But thank goodness my wife is like, that is her thing. She's way ahead of schedule. She's got things planned out. She's a planner. She makes sure everybody gets cards. And she'll just, every once in a while, she'll sit down and here's 5 cards. And I go in and I sign my name to each one. Mm-hmm. That's what you have to have.
Oh, man. Great story about cards. My husband is like we should do holiday cards guy. He's like, Monica, you are a graphic designer, for crying out loud. Right. Like, we don't even have a holiday card. And so one year I was like, okay, fine. I'll design them. I'll order them. You're going to deal with what I don't like to do, which is why we don't send them, which is getting them all in the envelopes and addressing them all and then stamping them all and mailing them. And he's like, okay, fine. And so like I get the list together, I give him all this stuff, I get them all printed, and it's like a month before Christmas. And then Christmas came and he still hadn't done it. And I like sat him down at his mother's dining room table. And I was like, you will not leave this table until all these stupid cards are in the stupid envelopes. Because I didn't want to do it, and you said you would do it, and now you're going to do it at your mom's house. And so he did it, and he has not asked since if we can send holiday
that was a lesson, I think.
I brought them all with me. I'm like, I know what you want to do is watch football right now, but you will address these cards.
That's right. You need to go through with what you said. Yeah. No, this is actually a great lesson, though. I think this is what I love about podcasting, because you never know what we're going to talk about. But I think it's a great lesson. I think because you can, like, a team is like a family. It's like friends. It's like whatever. Mm-hmm. It's you all complement each other, and you all like doing different things and putting that together. That's why I love building teams. I love constructing that, and finding that person that's going to do that thing and figure out who's going to do what. And then when it's all a well-oiled machine and everyone's working together, that makes a company. That's a beautiful thing.
It is, until that one person quits.
Oh.
And then it's like the saddest day. I don't like that. Turnover makes me sad.
Yeah.
But like a lot of my employees have been with me for like 7 to 10 years now. So then when somebody does turn over, we're like, all of us in the team are just like, no, because we don't want to do it. We want to keep you. We don't want a new one. We don't want a new you.
Yeah, right. That's the unfortunate thing with business. It's You become family. You go through so much together. You spend so much time together, and you overcome so much to like you just that bond is, and then to have somebody, they have to move on. They have lives. This is actually just their job.
I know.
And then you have to, and if you're a caring person, and even if you're a leader, you care about these people. Like you want to take care of them, keep them together forever. But at the same time, we're developing them, and they're going to do their own. They're going to go off and do whatever. It's a sad part about it for sure. And then of course, then you gotta, and that person was amazing at what they did probably, and now it's really hard to start over with. It can be a disruptor for sure. I'm sure you do like are you I don't know if this is you're the person in your agents or your company that that does this, but do you care a lot about documentation, like everyone's role is documented and processes are a lot of SOPs, or do you just?
We have a lot of SOPs because we do build like 50 websites a year, and we are all like interchanging roles. So someone might do the one part and then somebody has to step in and do the next part. And if the first thing wasn't done and all the boxes aren't checked, then the next part is a hot mess, right? And so as we've gotten better at those, and even we've shortened our design timeline, like our build timeline, quite a bit this year, and that's actually helped a lot in keeping the errors down and just keeping the project running and keeping everybody on the same page. Yeah, so we do have a lot of standard operating procedures and checklists just to keep us accountable. But as far as like defined jobs, well, I mean, we're a team of 8, so you could imagine there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
But we know what everybody likes and what they're good at. And so we try to make sure that we give people what they like and what they're good at. And then if they speak up and they say they want to do something, then we, adjust schedules so that way they can do that project. But like so like if you've got the skills to do it and it's in the pipeline and it needs to get done this week and it's not even your normal task, but you don't have another task, you're getting it.
Right.
Even though it's not necessarily, and it'll be fun because you can kind of see what it's like to live in somebody else's shoes for, 8 hours or so.
Yeah, it's good to be able to, there should be some flexibility and somebody can fill in, somebody else's role and some kind of cross training. And like I said, though, you also learn about, I think if you have an employee that knows more about what other people are doing, they'll understand what their role is and how it impacts and how to communicate with those folks. And, yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I know that you do like a lot of plugin development. So like imagine then, you're doing those plugins, but you have to put them in the site and work with them and install them and build pages and features with them. It's like if your developers go from building that functionality to having to implement it, it's like, oh, geez, I guess that wasn't as streamlined as I thought it was. Yeah. And so it's not a bad thing to have my upper level developers sometimes have to come down and use that stuff, because otherwise my designer who builds most of the pages and does a lot of the design work, she's not going to complain to them. Mm-hmm. But when I get in, I will. Yeah. And then I'm like a complete jerk. I'm like, did you know that when you change the, so there was one like glitch in our theme where if you like assigned a heading tag to a text block, then when you switched it back to normal text, it would maintain the styles from the heading tag. It wouldn't have a heading. It would not be wrapped in the H tag anymore, but it would still look like it on the front end and the back end. And there wasn't like, even when you cleared the styles, it was still attached to it. And so I was like, this is mega stupid. And it had been happening in our sites for a little while, like since our last like major release of our theme. But our page builder, she didn't say anything about it. And I get in there and I'm like, this does not work for me. This is bad. And then they're like, oh shoot, I'm gonna have to go fix it. But that's the great thing about having to work on those other tasks, is that it really does force you to like use the thing that you built and see, is it easy to use? Like, how hard do you have to think to do this, really? Because if you have to think really hard, it's probably not as streamlined as it should be.
Yeah.
If it's just like a recurring block or something that you're using. Anyway, long-winded example. Done
No,
with
I,
that.
I love it. I mean, it's everything's an iterative process, and there's continuous improvement. There's always, but like I said, like any opportunity you can get somebody to move them around and try different things. Like, well, plugins is a good example. Like, yeah, the developers develop it. I input. I guide the design and the concept, whatever we're doing. But then we install it on our own sites, and so our employees are using it, or that developer has to use it because they're developing a site with it, and so we kind of internally like, this could be done better, and yeah, so it's kind of like internal customer feedback.
Yeah.
So, okay, what is, from one web designer to another web designer, like, what is kind of your wheelhouse? What do you like to do, and how do you approach web design? Just generally, like, how do you think about it? Because we're talking about teams, right? Ooh, this is a good segue. We're talking about teams, and I think in a previous conversation, you said something about a website being a team, like one of the team members.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly what we think about it. We think about your website being an employee of your company.
Yeah, that's a good
That's the way we think about it.
Okay, so let's talk about, is that what you lead with? That's your kind of, that's how you kind of talk to your clients or whatever about their website?
We ask a lot of questions because we're more consultants than salespeople. Like, we really are not sales humans. If you can't sit down and like allow us to ask you questions and get feedback from you, then you're not going to get the thing that you want,
right,
or the thing that you need, right? Because people come to us and they're like, "Oh, I know what I need," and it's like, "Do you? Do you really know what you need? Is this what you do for a living?"
Why do you think
because
that?
I don't go into my accountant and say, "I know what I need," other than to get my taxes done, right? Like, I just like, you're going to figure this out and help me do it, right? Through a series of consulting and, feedback. So we really sit down and just ask a series of questions to get to know the company and what the challenges that they're trying to overcome with in their marketing. What other types of marketing do they do? Where's their biggest challenge as a company? Like, what are they trying to overcome?
Right.
What are their goals? And so from there, we can make sure that we put our energy into the website in the spot where it needs to be put in, right? So if you are having a hard time attracting new hires because you're a construction company, which I hear all the time, that they're like, we can have all the business that we want. I just need good people to help build it, right? And I'm like, okay. So then one example of what we would do in that is we would make sure that we have a really good careers section that highlights the different phases that they hire people in for their careers. So they might have a great internship program. So we're going to talk about that in detail with testimonials and all that kind of stuff. And then they might have like a entry level position, like where people come in and they do this thing. And then they have like middle management, right? But all those people, their journey's in a different spot. They might all resonate with the core values of the company, but it's going to be for a different reason. And so we make sure that they can see their journey through the company and how that company is going to help them fulfill their personal goals by the things that we show them on their website. And then we're going to do things like make sure it loads fast, works on mobile, has a great intake, like online intake for applications that feeds right into their HR software. Talk to the HR people, be like, what's your problem? And they're like, well, I can't read anything that anybody puts on their written applications. Or sometimes it just turns out that they make people drive out to the office to fill out their employment application. And I'm like, I get that. I do. Because I know you want to see these people in person and that's valuable to you. And then we kind of talk about, does that make sense anymore? Or could we allow people to apply online? Would that be okay? Or could there be a step in the process where they submit it and then they're invited out? So anyway, that was a long-winded answer, but so that's just a good probably example of us looking at what's the challenge that you're trying to overcome, and then how can we make your website into a working member of your team so that way it will help you overcome that challenge as a company.
So describe that again. So a working member of the team, like, what does that mean?
Yep.
It's doing something for your business. It's not just out there to get traffic and, people to read your website.
Well, getting traffic could make it a working member of your team for sure. It just needs to do its job. Like, a lot of websites don't do their jobs. They just kind of sit out there. Just from the outside looking in, they look haphazardly put together. You can't find what you're looking for. The links don't look like links. They load like, turtles. And they haven't been updated in years, right? And so if you had an employee that worked for your company, let's say, because, your website is not just a website. It's not just a brochure. Like, people research online before they buy, right? They research online before they apply. They're out there. They're gathering information. That's what people do now, right? So they enter into the sales process or employment process way later in the game than they did when, like, Matt, you and I started our, jobs, right? So, 100 years ago. But so now it's not the same thing, right? We're not just a car dealer that's standing on the lot waiting for somebody to come on so I can have the conversation with you and guide you to the right car. You come onto the lot, you know what car you probably already wanted. And you already know what the rebates are. You know what the cubic square foot in the back seat is because you know if you can fit a car seat in it, right? And so you know these things. And it's the same thing with your website. So if your website were an employee and it was just sitting around not answering the phone, it showed up for work late, it was hungover, and it couldn't do its tasks the way that you wanted it to, you would fire it. Right? You would be like, you cannot answer my phone. You're making me look like an idiot. You're like killing my business. And people just let their websites hold them hostage and be the worst employees ever. And I'm like, stop that. Yeah. Stop that. Hire one that doesn't suck. Because they really are they're a facilitator in the information gathering journey that people go through before they come to you to talk to you about the opportunity of working with or working for your company.
Yeah, it's kind of like having, if you have a brick and mortar company, whatever, you have a receptionist at the front desk, and that person's let themselves go. They're doing their nails when they come in. They're not interested. They're just not well put together, and they are not helpful at all. They're just they're not personable. They don't have a good, you're going to have a different impression of that company right up in your website's the same way, right? I mean, you want it to, there's a lot of websites, and obviously that's why we stay in businesses, because there's a lot of websites that need help. and even, at this point of the internet, there's a lot of websites that are old. They need a refresh. And I love that, a website as an employee, kind of like we were talking about, everyone does different things within a team and stuff like that. A website does specific things. It's a living and breathing entity that can either harm your business or enhance it. And yeah, I love thinking about it that way. It's there's so many things it can do. What are some of the things that a website could do for you? It can get you traffic. It can collect names. It can, somebody could request a quote if it has that functionality. It can
give a quote,
automate things. Yeah.
Straight up.
Right.
You can set an appointment. You can answer questions.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it can do whatever you need it to do. Really, I mean, within reason. I always tell people to think about the things that they do on a daily basis that are really routine, that require things to be done just a certain way in just a specific order. And if it is something that could be initiated through the website, that then could be automated out through those steps. So that way you don't have to do them.
Yeah.
Like some people get joy in that. Clearly I don't. We already talked about that. And so I automate it after doing it, like let's say I do it for a couple months. I figure out what the process and system needs to be, and then I'm going to go automate it all. And it's going to start on my website, and then it's going to like float its way out, and all the things will be done.
Yeah, because
Not by
a
my
website
fingers.
also connects to outside systems and can collect things, but then also via, not to get technical, like APIs or just integrations with other outside services and stuff, can do a lot. It's interesting. And, at this stage, again, I talk about the stage of the game, like with internet, right? There's a lot of old websites out there. There's surprisingly a lot of, you still run into people that are doing a lot of stuff just manually. Businesses, established businesses, especially physical businesses, whether it could be a manufacturer, it could be somebody I'm talking to right now that I just sent a proposal in for, where they're still doing a lot of stuff manually. They have a whole bunch of they're actually students, so it's not like it's like they teach, but they're doing all this stuff manually, even managing the invoicing and access and all this stuff, and so talking to somebody like that, it's like, oh well, we can solve all of that. We can just bring it all under one roof. Your employee, your website. We can bring that all under one roof, and they can handle that all for you. You don't need to worry about the access, because that'll just be tied to the payments and the monthly payments, because you're going to use this system here, and then we'll give them a little community, and we'll you have this one place where you can manage everything. And it's, some people are that way where they have nothing, and some people have kind of gone part way, and you just need to push them a little bit further. You're still doing this stuff manually. I think that's part of what that employee is doing for you. It's taking things off the plate and letting you do the more valuable things, right?
Yeah. Well, and even when you set up your website, like if you think about how you're going to use the information on it. So, for example, let's say that you have your hours listed, and you're going to have your hours, like, because you're a restaurant. So you're going to have your hours on your homepage, on your contact page. Maybe it's at the bottom of your menu pages or at the top. So the challenge that people run into is they don't understand how to set up that information within their site. So that way they only have to change it in one place and have it reflected everywhere else.
Right.
And then they forget it on a page, or and it just becomes, you're like, oh no, I'm not going to update the hours to reflect this week's hours, because it's just gonna take so long. You got to go on all these places where, like in WordPress, which is the system that we both work on, they have synced patterns now, and so it can, like, even the simplest user can make a synced pattern, and then you just put it in over and over and over again, and it can just be a text block that has your hours of operation in it. And when you update it in one spot, it updates everywhere, and it's like magical. And we used to have to do that, like by creating post types and custom fields and all kinds of fancy things. And now it can be just in a synced pattern, and it's so cool. But people don't think about that because they don't know that it's possible, and then they don't update their website, and then they end up having people show up at their restaurant 3 times and it's closed because it turns out they're actually never open on Mondays. But people don't know that.
That's
and then they never come back, That's
actually huge. I mean, and I don't, obviously, business owners, whatever, they don't really know anything about websites, but, or a little bit, but they don't realize that a website's just not a static thing where, okay, I have content all over and I'm going to have to edit it independently, and but that's a big thing that we, like you and I, would bring to the table. Like, you don't have to do that. You can not only automate things, but you can also have where you have a single source of truth, or you have just one block that'll update everything everywhere. It doesn't even matter which block you update; it'll update all the rest of them. And it's the same way with, like, I have this story. This is from years ago yet, but I always, it's a really good one, where it's simple. there was a company who had a countdown timer, and this countdown timer, it was long. It was like months and months. I don't know. They had like this long promotional schedule. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know exactly what it was, but I remember I was like, they kept asking me over a year or two period, like to go update this timer for them, and I have to go into the code and I'd have to update that timer and change, tweak the JavaScript, however it was built. And I just remember one time this was through a partner. I said, we could build this, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. It would probably be a few hours, and we could have a field in WordPress where they could just go and change that themselves. They don't need a developer to come in every single time, and they can just do it there. And then wherever that displays, it'll just update it on the site, and they can manage their own timer, and saves time, saves money. And I did that one time, and I've never gotten a call since. I lost a little money from that. Probably I was making an extra dollar or two here, doing that. But I think that's what we bring to the table. Yeah. We have to think we're here to help them do more and do better. And that was just one way to do that. And just like you, like talking about those blocks or the patterns in.
I know they just named them patterns.
It's just really a pattern in WordPress.
I'm gonna get used to that.
Is basically a collection of blocks. Essentially, it could be one block probably, but it's a pattern of whatever content styles,
things that you put on the page.
And but it's more repeatable now, where you can create a kind of one that can be reused everywhere. But it's a beautiful thing, and that's one of the things. That's one of the most what your website should do for you. It should save you time. You can find ways to do that.
Yeah. One of my favorite things that we did like a year and a half ago was we went through and we're like, what are the things that Tyler keeps having to go in and style all the time? Because Tyler's like our highest level programmer. And so, okay, we were like, well, blog pages, project sections, staff members, like, because we put them all in as like custom post types. And so finally we were like, oh wait, yeah, we could just build an interface that we could do that so that he didn't have to do it anymore. And so he built it like into the theme where you like check boxes. I'm going to have a resources section, a blog page, and a project section. And then you like check the boxes. I want it to look like this. And then it like formats it. And the nice thing about it is like it creates this incredible level of consistency throughout the site. That is one of the things that I find a lot when people are just using blocks to display this information, is that the blocks that they're using won't necessarily save a set of styles, and unless you go find it on another page and copy the styles or copy the block itself and put it into the other page, they all start looking different. And that is not what you want on a website or in any type of marketing piece. You want things to feel consistent, because otherwise that like caveman brain in the back of somebody's head is going to go, this doesn't feel quite right. And they don't know why, and it could just be because you introduced a new like shape that isn't existent anywhere else because you felt like circles that day, right? And so instead of having clients go in and they have to remember to upload a picture and put the staff member name in and put the title in, and then it's this heading and it's this font size, instead you fill in the blanks. You put the staff block in the page and you fill in the blanks, and then it is done. Yeah. And it's formatted the exact same way as all the other staff blocks on your page. Like they all look the same, and it's a powerful tool to keep things looking professional and consistent, but make it easy for the end user to use the site, and for the administrator to use the site, right? Because that's all about your website being that successful employee for you, is that it needs to not scare people away, even though their caveman brains are the ones that are actioning in their thoughts and patterns. And it needs to be easy for you to use, or else you're not going to use it.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to do things that
hard. I don't think like if you have a content person, that content person should not have to think about styles, whether it's a custom block or it's advanced custom fields. We use that a lot in our frameworks, and where we create,
we do too.
And we work with clients that lean way into them. Like everything is uses HCF, and they have you can you have tabs of content and stuff, and all you're doing is dropping the content in. But on the front end, it just shows it the way it's supposed to show it, and it's like you said, consistent across there. And it's the same way if you're going to have a website done, to have a developer that understands global styles versus instead of page by page, like we should make sure that all the H1 tags across the whole site. And if you need to look a little different, you do that locally there, but you should have those that start at the top, the cascade. And so that's
exactly,
that's important. Yeah. Because like you said, there's that caveman brain or cave woman brain.
It does.
The cave person brain.
Well, and another thing that we ran into recently is so for all of the static pages, they are, they're finessed, right? We're loving on those. They have all kinds of design elements and stuff in there. And then when we would get to the projects section or announcements or blog resources, whatever you want to call it, you get into those pages and there's a lot of words on those. Much more words than pictures most of the time. And they would have that same super wide layout as the other ones, and they would have enormous headings up at the top. And so we recently actually adjusted our design process to lay out a separate page template for those specific types of pages so that the margins of the screen come in automatically, and the H1 is it's the same font, it's just smaller, so that way you can actually read it without having to scroll all the way down the screen. Because some people have a whole 2-sentence title on something, right? And just accommodating for those types of things, so that way viewers would get on the page and not just feel completely overwhelmed and be reading from one side to the other. You know what I mean? So just putting those standardized styles in as a separate element of the theme, because you do want it to be consistent. You want it to feel right, but then you also don't. It's different. There's depending
different,
on the content that's in the page.
Kinds of content on a website. Like I say, you have your static pages, your about pages, your whatever that are going to be much more designed, and they're going to be kind of stand on their own, and it's a different thing. But then when you have a blog area or whatever, or and that's the beautiful thing about content management systems like WordPress, where you can create a template. You can use templates to create different experiences depending on where you are on the site. It's true, and it requires, it's interesting. You think about what is the value of hiring a web designer or web developer. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of when you take on if you inherit sites maybe you do. Sometimes you got a site somebody has, and it's we all the time somebody changes something on our site and something else breaks, and it's because all these things are connected. And you have to have this perfect cascade. Or have somebody that understands why those things are happening, and fix it. There's ways to fix it, and it's a dance, and everything has to kind of work together. So I think I think about a website. You're talking about as an employee again, what are all the things this thing's going to do, and how can it automate things, but also just how is it all constructed, and how does it show up? and it's not a mess. So that's our job.
Easy for people to use.
Use and find. Let's talk a little bit about what you do specifically. Do you have a certain vertical or type of client that you like, or business that you like to that you mostly work in? Do you work in a certain segment or industry or whatever?
We work a lot with construction companies. Okay. We love commercial construction. We work a lot with people in trades. Every time we get to work with a new person who is a roofer or a paver, somebody who does drywall, we're like, yes, you're our people. We just love this. It's just I don't know why. And also engineers are really fun to work with for us.
Really? Cool.
Yeah, I like to joke around with the pavers, because they're what we do isn't sexy. And I'm like, oh, you came to the right place because we make asphalt look sexy like all the time. Like, we think it's really sexy. So, and so that's really fun. And then we also work with nonprofits a lot. Especially like associations, because associations tend to need to have like a pretty darn functional website to be able to communicate with their members and do, just help them run their organization. Usually there's just a few people in that office that are running that association that are paid employees, and then everyone else is a member, right? And so they really do need a website that does its job. And what's crazy is that, people will go out and get bids for these association websites, and they're just like crazy, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm like, what? That's so nuts. Come on over, because I'm going to build it for a fraction of the price. And we're really going to like working with you. And so then we do work with small businesses in like that. We have what we call our Better Than DIY website program, which was actually a really fun, we launched it live a few times, and I took people through, like Tyler and our designers would work with them to get their template done and do all that hard stuff for them, then roll it up in the hosting space. And then they would hang out with me, and we would decide what was going to go on every page. And then I'd show them how to do it, like how to build their pages out. That was great. That was like, an amazing opportunity for me, because I could see how people could break their websites 6 ways from Sunday while watching them do it. I was like, okay, so we should definitely fix that interface for you, because it is, I didn't even know you could break it that way. That is incredible. So it made me feel really like tied into like the end user of the site. And so now we allow people to go through that on demand. So we usually have like one or two a month, people that are just like, hey, I have a really limited budget, but I don't get all this stuff and I need support. And so they go through it on demand and they watch videos, and then they can chat me or call me, and I answer their questions about what they're going through. So yeah, and then like last but not least is we do have a contract with the University of Missouri, which is kind of like also now filtering out to other university entities. So we build our fair share of learning management systems, which is cool. We don't want to do 1 million of them at one time, because they have a lot of pieces. And so we want to make sure we get it right and we don't belly flop. Yeah. So, we do 3-4 of those a year, because they take a long time to get through, but those are cool to build. And a lot of them are actually grant funded. So we have one that teaches people how to sleep again, and we have another one that prevents suicide, and we have another one that teaches gas station clerks how to identify underage buyers of nicotine products to stop that moving out into the wrong hands. And so it feels like pretty cool when we get to work on them and like help them through the process, because we're like, we're doing good. We're doing good things for the world. So those are kind of like our little niches, I guess.
Well, that's beautiful. Yeah. When you get to work on something that is having an impact on the world, you're kind of through that process, helping them do better, and you're kind of that ripple effect. You'll be able to do more and impact them.
Yeah. Well, and I have employees in the past who've been like, ugh, I don't want to build a paving website. That's like so lame. And I'm like, so you think it's lame that we live in a country where we have paved roads that allow us to travel and allow us to get goods cheaper? You think that's lame? Like, these people are the people that do that for us. Like, we should be grateful that we get to help them, like, recruit and find more people to help pave these roads so we can live in this great country. So, like, just flip it on its head, yo, and make it sexy. It's pavement.
It's all how you look at. Just frame it that way. Yeah, exactly. You're not just...
I know. I'm like, asphalt is the most recycled product out there. Like, they take stuff that would just end up in a landfill and they put it on a road.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, it's so... And so I try to get them pumped up because I love it. That doesn't mean that they have to love it, but they can't sit around and complain about it because that's not going to fly.
Exactly. You will get excited about this. And this is how.
Yeah, at least make it look good, okay? Yeah. At least make it look good. Get behind it because it's a cool opportunity to be part of.
No, that's awesome. And it's also great that, when I asked that question that you had a good answer. I think every business that's kind of a lesson. Like, what you have to know who you serve. You can't be too broad. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it just happens, but it's interesting. I think, I have partner agencies and stuff, and I can tell you kind of what their kind of wheelhouse is, the type of clients that they attract and work with. And it kind of happens naturally because eventually you build that portfolio and that's what you can speak to. And you specialize in those areas, but even the contractor kind of side of things, I have an agency that refers business to us, where they're all HVAC, and so that's what we're working on. We're building quoting tools and things like that. We're building for them, and yeah, it's good. So this is a good place to land. If somebody wants to reach out to you, learn more about what you do, like where can they find you on the World Wide Web? You have a pretty awesome website. I've been peeking at it. Somebody designed that really well.
Oh, thank you.
And where else do you hang out? Do you hang out on LinkedIn? Do you where do you hang out on the World Wide Web?
Well, I do hang out on my website a lot because I'm a website girl. I call myself, I listened to a workshop by Jenna Kutcher the other day, and she said that there's two types of marketing: perennial marketing and annual marketing. And she was referring to flowers, and we already established that I have a degree in agriculture, so that very much resonated with me. So I want to be a perennial marketer. So I like to be places where stuff is going to last forever, and come back every year. So you can go out to the May Create website. That's MAYECREATE.com. And we also have our fledgling YouTube channel that we're always adding little tutorials and stuff to as I find the need for whatever. I'll figure out something new and I put it up there. And that's out on YouTube. So you can just look for May Create and you'll find us out there. You can definitely find me on LinkedIn. But I'm not as active in any of the social channels because it's annual, man. It's an annual. But May Create is active. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. So
sounds good.
But I do check my LinkedIn messages more often than any other social channel. So if you look up Monica Pitts on LinkedIn or May Create, you can definitely send me a message and I'll talk to you.
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining us, Monica. I could talk about websites all day long. I have to control myself. I tried to control myself and keep us focused. But
I think you did good.
Well, I can tell you're super passionate about what you do and you love what you do, and you could talk about websites all day long. I'm the same way, and so. But that's good. That's awesome. Anyway, until next time. That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you're interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.